Hi, it's Nell, and we're continuing on with the Bromeliad series. I've already done the Acmea, I've done the Tillandsia cyanea, and what's the other? I did the Guzmania. And today I'm going to be talking about my favorite, which is the Neoregelia. I grew these outdoors in my garden in Santa Barbara, and I just love the different colors and the patterns. Just looking at them, they made me smile. The garden was a really happy garden to me. And what I think is so cool about this plant is that the foliage is wonderful, and that's what it is grown for. And there are many different species and varieties of Neoregelias. You should do an internet search on them because the patterns are crazy. So that is what makes this one so cool, I think, is that it is a really attractive plant. Now, it doesn't have the showy flower, but the foliage definitely makes up for it. And with these, you almost need to look down into them, not at them. So you should keep that in mind if you're going to get this plant, because they're oftentimes wider than they are tall. And I'm going to tell you how I take care of them indoors. As I said, I had quite a few of them outdoors, but I've grown them indoors too. So we're going to start with light. The same as the rest of the bromeliads, as nice and bright as you can give it, especially the ones that have a lot of variegation to them. They need that light to bring out the variegation. This one, I had one of these, and then one that had more of like a purpley to it. And these would burn outdoors in the sun, you know, in any kind of sun. But most of them need that really bright light, like an east exposure or a west exposure. You just want to make sure that you keep it out of any direct hot sun because it will burn. Okay, we're zoomed in close to talk about the watering. And first of all, I'm going to show you, I don't know if you can see the flowers. The flowers are like a pale violet blue, and they're inside the cup there. So that's why they're not considered particularly showy, because they're very hard to see. So like the other bromeliads, they get their moisture mainly in this tank here and through the leaves. The roots are just to anchor them onto other plants or onto rocks or something. So what you would want to do is you can spray the foliage if it's really dry. You can do that once or twice a week, and your bromeliad would love that. And you should also keep this tank about a quarter full of water. That's about a half, I think. That's a little much. I'm here in Arizona though, so it's warm, but especially in the winter months, you don't want to keep that tank too full at all, because it could rot that center out. And if you have hard water, you know, lots of minerals and salts in your water, you would want to use either a purified water or a distilled water to water your bromeliad, especially the water in the tank there. And the growing medium, you can wet that. You can wet the surface of that every 1 to 2 months, again depending on the temperatures and the season, but you just do not want to overwater a bromeliad at all. Now, in terms of fertilizers, bromeliads really don't need that much at all. I've never really fertilized mine. If you feel the need to for some reason, there are fertilizers that are especially formulated for bromeliads and air plants, and that's what you should use. Or you could use something like a general all-purpose orchid food. It's got just about the same formulation, because orchids, just like bromeliads, are epiphytes also. Now, you only need to fertilize them about once or twice a year. That's it. And you don't want to do it in the late fall or into winter, because that's when the plant is going to be resting. The best thing to do is to mix up that fertilizer, if you mix it yourself, at half strength into a spray bottle and just spray it on, because that's how how they get their nutrients too, the same way that they get their in their moisture. You can also moisten the surface of the growing medium too, so that'll get a little bit of a feeding too. And I was told to not keep fertilizer in this tank because fertilizers have salts and the salts can build up in there. Which brings me back to one thing that I forgot to mention in the watering, because these have this tank and the water catches in there because you keep on putting it in. It can get stagnant and bacteria can build up in there. So you will want to flush out this tank about every month or two so that the water in there stays fresh. Oh, and there is a blog post to go along with this video, so you can refer to that for even more information on this plant. Now on to growing medium. As I said, bromeliads do not like to stay moist or be overwatered at all. So it's really important for the mix to drain really, really well. The water just wash right out of it. So you could use something like orchid bark. Small, medium, or large really doesn't matter. Or you could use a Cymbidium orchid mix. Or you could do something like I have done, half orchid bark and half cocoa coir. Cocoa coir is a replacement for peat moss. It's much more sustainable than peat moss is. You can do bark mulch and potting soil, but with potting soil you just have to be really careful because it holds the water a lot more. So it's probably best if you need to pot yours up is to use something like an orchid bark. So this is leading us into propagation and repotting. Now you probably won't need to repot the mother plant because their root systems are not that extensive, but they do produce pups. Now this not so beautiful looking Neoregelia is one that I brought from my garden in Santa Barbara, and it is dying out, but as you can see there are pups here. So what I can do is I can cut off the mother plants eventually after the babies get to be a fairly good size. Actually they're a fairly good size now. Or I can take a very sharpened knife and I can remove the pups off of there. The babies are called pups here. And there's one there, and I'll swing that around so you can see there is one there too. And I'm going to do a video on it for you to show you how I would take the pups off of the plant. Okay, so now we're back with the much more attractive Neoregelia. And I found that these plants are pretty long lasting. The ones in my garden lasted for probably at least 3 years before they pupped, and they pupped quite readily too. As you can see, that one that I just showed you the pups was one plant, and then the other plant came off of it, and now there's 3 pups on it. And the pups don't really flower until they're at least 3 to 5 years old. But again, the flowers are not really the main draw on this plant. And now in terms of humidity and temperature, as I say, if your house is comfortable to you, it's going to be comfortable for the Neoregelia also. But this one I think handles dryness pretty well because you don't see it with that many brown tips at all. The Guzmania is susceptible to brown tipping, as is the Freesia, which I'm going to show you after this. But this one is pretty good in terms of the brown tips. So the dryness in our homes, it doesn't seem to bother them too much. And now in terms of pets being safe for pets, like the other bromeliads, it is reportedly non-toxic. So that's good news. But it does have these crunchy leaves that cats love to chew on, and if they chew a lot of it, it could make them sick, so just watch that. But it's not going to poison them. Ugh. The edges are serrated on if you rub your arm up against them or your hand. But they are beautiful and tough houseplants, really, really easy. And I love the colors and the variegations they come in. Just beautiful. As always, I thank you for your likes and your comments and your subscribes. I really appreciate them. So let's get into our outdoor gardens or our indoor gardens and make our worlds a more beautiful place. I have a lot more videos coming your way, so come back for that. And I will catch you in the next video. And thanks so much for watching. Bye.